Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. This is a platform where worldwide experts come and present us with a little bit of their knowledge and expertise. I am so thrilled that we have this platform because I meet the most incredible people who are on our team. They literally are the people you want to contact in terms of the knowledge that they have. Our talking head expert today is Mr. Red O'Laughlin. Not only is he a personal friend and he is my book coach, but he is so accomplished. He is a longevity expert. He is also a public speaker. He's an author. He is a veteran from Vietnam and Bosnia, and he is a retired naval captain. And he is here with us today. Let's bring him out. Welcome to the program, Red.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline. Love being here. I really and truly do.
Well, it's great seeing you again, and I'm looking forward to this lesson. Tell us what you'll be presenting today.
Last time we talked about the causes of longevity, causes of aging. Today we're going to go a little bit more into detail about disease, those things that kind of pop up in our old age. We don't see them in our early years, but all of a sudden you turn 50 or 60 or 70, and now you have a cardiologist and a thisologist and a thatologist and a couple others, and your pills are lined up there to take every day. And is there a way that we could not have that? I mean, yes, there may be some things that creep into our lives like Alzheimer's, but can we do something? And I think the answer is yes. And today we're going to go right to the source of that problem and say, where does disease begin and what can we do about it? And so that's kind of my thought today. I have literally 6 things that I want to talk about. We're going to do 3 on this show and 3 on the next one. But I'll introduce the topic and just pretend like I know what I'm doing.
You know exactly what you're doing, Red. Take it away. Have a great show.
Thank you so very much, Doctor. I really and truly appreciate it. Stride. Stride. I use that as a mnemonic so that I know what I'm talking about, where I don't have to have notes. S, stress. T, toxins. R, radiation. I, inflammation. D, diet. And E, expectations. Yes, even expectations can cause disease. Let me first say that as a disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I'm not a pharmaceutical expert. I don't work in those fields, never have worked in those fields. I'm a researcher. Usually when I get to a group of people, one of the first questions I ask at the beginning, I said is, do you remember your first love? And I hear a few snickers here, there, and yonder, and a lot of smiles and some giggles. But my first love was chemistry, long before I met my wife. And we've been married. This year will be 54 years for this year. And for my Navy career, I did 31 years. Ironically, I said I do to the Navy on a Sunday afternoon. I said I do to my wife the following Wednesday evening. So the Navy had me for 31 years. My wife still has me, and we enjoy it all the time. But anyway, I'm not a doctor, as I said, but my first love is chemistry, and I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week, and I love to research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating a symptom. Disease starts as chronic low-level inflammation at the cellular level. Free radicals, you've heard that term, I'm sure. They come from many, many sources. But stress is one of those causes of free radicals. In fact, stress is probably 80-85% of the genesis of all doctor visits. The disease that you're going in to see could have been prevented had you been doing a better job of controlling the stress in your life. Stress increases the free radicals, it increases metabolic response, it increases the energy demand, and it it's a simple thing to reduce. You reduce the stress, you reduce the free radicals. Uh, so it's not the stress per se that's causing the problem. It's what you're holding on to and not letting go that causes the problem. Uh, Stress can be internal, our thoughts, and then we're talking about thoughts of money, illness of others, death in a family, friend. Uh, Nowadays, the pandemic, COVID-19, hunger, relationships, divorce, marriage, new job, new home, loss of a job, um, work demands, bosses. We dream up our own stresses all the time. And you can usually tell when you're super stressed when that bothers you at night and you can't go to sleep and that thing is hanging in there. You got to let it go. External stresses are similar, but they come from temperature, moisture. Today it's raining here in the Houston area. Cold rain, by the way. I don't like cold rain. Wind, noise, exercise, smoke, vibration, toxins, PTSD. Many things are external stressors. And again, those are the ones that we need to control as much. If you have a person that's bothering you, get away from them. If you can't get away from them, then you have to kind of just not hold on to what they're causing you. Uh, Stress creates a lot of diseases. I think Dr. Mercola said over 260 of them, if I remember right. Uh, Obesity is one because we go to comfort foods or we go to the TV set and we binge watch. We don't do anything to get rid of that. Asthma, diabetes, headaches, migraines, depression, anxiety, a lot of gut issues. Uh, and in some issues, insomnia is a big one. I just talked about that a second ago. It affects your sleep. The eating disorders, panic attacks, hypertension, high blood pressure, heartburn, a lot of things stress causes. But what can you do about it? A lot. Most of the time I say, go meditate, do yoga, tai chi, go out and run. That's a big one. It increases the endorphins in our bodies, and that kind of quells everything down a little bit. Quality sleep, but if stress is disrupting your sleep, it's kind of hard to get quality sleep. Music for some people, muscle relaxation. My daughter was a gymnast in her high school, junior high, high school years, and she had a continuous problem falling off the high beam. And over time, she had issues. When she gave up gym, she put on some weight, and the issue became in the middle of the night, she would scream out in pain. And we found out way down the road after going to a number of different doctors that her pelvis was twisted and tilted and her back, the top part was the opposite direction. So all those falls, even though she had landed in safe territory, did something to her back. So she got out of whack. And it took a long time before we could actually get her to a physical therapist that understood what was wrong. But I would go up there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and we just start, okay, Michelle, just lay down. Okay, we're just going to concentrate, close your eyes and just relax. Start with your toes, start with your ankles, start with your shins, and just, planned muscle relaxation. And within a half hour, she was asleep and fine. So those are things you can do. A red light story is one I love to tell. You're at a red light, there's four or five cars ahead of you. You know that if everything goes perfectly, you're going to get through the light. And if you're in a hurry, you know that that's going to really disrupt the rest of your day. So the first car doesn't move, none of the cars move, and you're sitting there, you're pulling your hair out. But now all of a sudden they're moving. No way I'm going to make that light. Well, that can disrupt the next several moments of your life. I tell people the easiest way to get rid of stress is to smile. Smile forces muscles in the face to go back up to the brain. You can't have a negative and a positive thought in the brain at the same time. When you do, you force that negative thought away. When you're upset at something, your face is going to show it. That stress is going to show in your face. Why not force it the opposite direction? Get rid of it. So that smile is something that literally gets rid of it. By the time you get past the light and on to wherever you're going, that little episode is gone. You're no longer upset at that person. Laughing is another one. Uh, when I'm doing presentations, I can laugh out loud for 30 seconds to a minute. It's one of those ones that's whether it's forced or whether it's real, it doesn't matter because it's like a mini workout in the body, and you're getting those muscles going, and that laughter that just really gets rid of a lot of stress. So those are things you can do. Uh, YouTube is a good place for comedies. A lot of roasts from a long time, a lot of humor there. So if you're looking for something, that might be a good source to do. Have you ever noticed that when our presidents go in their first year and you compare what they look like 4 or 8 years later, they have aged tremendously? Stress, and maybe a lot of other things too. But stress can add literally 10 or 20 years to your face, to your body. But it can be reversed. Uh, I was literally last night. I was shopping over to a store, and I'm getting it, and this lady's okay, fine. Then all of a sudden, it gets time for her to pay. Well, now she gets into her purse, digging around, and she's digging around, and okay, she finally finds her wallet, and I'm thinking to myself, okay. So I start saying, okay, just smile a little bit, and she finally gets it out, and then she's going to pay cash, and she get that, and then she wants to get it. It seemed like it took forever, but I kept smiling and smiling and smiling, and I got there, and I think the checker was surprised that I was smiling because I'd been delayed so long. It doesn't matter. But you got to let it go. Uh, let's say somebody's really bothering you. My wife's boss bothered me a long time ago. I did this at a church event that I went to, and the guy doing the presentation saying, "Write the name of that person on your hand invisibly." So if I write, let's say, uh, Jolene, just to pick a name, and this is okay. Look at it. Look at that person's face. Look at what they do to you. Now throw it away. Just let it go. Uh, and it was, I couldn't believe just that one little incident of throwing it away allowed me to just de-stress the next couple times I ran into her. No problems at all. I had no perceptible stress. My wife and I walked the Camino de Santiago about 5.5 years ago. For her, it was Thanksgiving for her full recovery from breast cancer through surgery, chemo, radiation, and she did very, very well in all that. I I did it as let it go to her. Just anything that happened, I was not going to let. And that was probably the one thing that if I hadn't started out that way, I think I would have ruined it on the first day. But we had a lot of issues, but just let it go. And I kept telling myself all day long, whatever, let it go, let it go. And maybe you have to do that. Maybe if you're having insomnia, just think of it and let it go. But those things. Another good way that I use is EFT, electro emotional freedom techniques. I would recommend you go to YouTube, put in EFT and stress relief or weight loss or time zone changes. I've used it a lot when I was traveling around the world quite a bit, and I could come back from maybe being in the Far East or over in Korea or someplace and come back home, and 8, 10, 12 time zones in one day is kind of hard to deal with. EFT, literally in a couple nights, I'm back on my regular schedule. I like a guy called Brad Yates, Bradyates. I love the way he does his tapping procedures. So that's something that I could recommend. Let's bump to our next topic: toxins. Toxins, like stress relief, cause free radicals in the body, and toxins it just inflame the cellular level more than almost anything else because they're a chemical there that's coming from outside the body. Our free radicals from other things. Now, food, you can argue, it comes from something outside the body, but a lot of our thoughts are where our stress is at. But sources of toxins are foods. We got antibiotics, artificial colors, artificial flavors, packaging, byproducts, heavy metals, mercury, particularly in some fish. Medicines contain, believe it or not, contain some toxins in them. Uh, Omega 3 and omega 6, we hear how good they are, but we don't have the right ratio. And you should have a 1-to-1 ratio of omega 3 to omega 6. If you don't, anything outside of 4-to-1, omega 6s being increased, now the body's going to be inflamed because that is a highly inflammatory product in the body. But it's also a lot of the vegetable oils are rancid, but they're sold anyway. And so there's just a lot of issues with that. A lot of the foods we have uh, growth hormones and other things in there. But if you're looking for good omega 3s, your salmon, your bass, oysters, shrimp, walnuts even, those are very, very good. Uh, Nut oils in general are okay. Vegetable oils in general are not. So you got to be really careful with that. Most vegetable oils have omega 6, as I said, very inflammatory. Poultry, eggs, whole grains, trans fats are all highly inflammatory if you have too much. Moderation is really what you want. So if you want to cut down, I tell people use a salad plate as your primary plate. Omega uh, 9s are olive oils. A lot of them are rancid, but it's not an essential oil or fatty acid to the body. You can take it or leave it. It's really big in the Mediterranean world, but it's not something the body has to have. Uh, but toxins come from other sources. Personal care products is probably where you'll get an overdose on literally a daily basis. You have formaldehydes, air fresheners, your clothes, curtains, bed sheets, uh, skincare products, toothpaste, artificial sweeteners, methylene chloride, phthalates. That phthalates is a really big one. It's in just about everything you look at: nail polish, cosmetics, uh, soap, shampoo, detergents, triclosan. It's interesting because I was at my wife's oncologist office, and in the bathroom, the soap that they were using says contains triclosan, as if they were proud of it, but it's actually a carcinogenic agent. And I don't know why they had to actually add that label to the outside of the package that it was in. I thought it was crazy. Anytime you see fragrances on the outside of a label, beware. But you also get glycols and sodium benzoates and parabens, so many things you can't even pronounce. So you really need to look at the labels and be able to say, does this thing really have what I want? I'll hopefully talk about that in just a second or two. But our bodies act differently because our immune systems act differently. Aspartame is a common chemical found in diet drinks. It's a sweetener, artificial sweetener. Dr. Mercola says 75% of all reactions that were strong enough that needed to be reported to the FDA involved aspartame. And we're talking about headaches, mood changes, migraines, fuzzy thinking, seizures, depression, ADHD, dizziness, weight loss, vision problems, sleep disorders, even nausea, vomiting, some heart issues. But a lot of those things, aspartame. Now, my immune system may handle it well, yours may not. I know a guy who took acetaminophen, Tylenol for the first time in his life. He spent 4 days in intensive care because his body could not handle that particular drug, even though it's being sold on the open market, just like aspartame is on anything else. Regardless, it's out there. Just be aware of it. Organic, non-organic. Organic doesn't have the pesticides, herbicides. It's really careful of where the food sources are. If you're feeding cattle, what is the source of that cattle that they eat? Those are things there. Gluten. Gluten is something that some people can digest very well, others can't. There are some gluten sensitivities. Sometimes it's not big. It's not considered a toxin, but gluten creates a problem in the gut. The gluten molecule, if you look at it, on this side, it looks like a gluten. You put it in a mirror, and it looks like casein. Casein is in our cheese products. And so there are some people who become gluten sensitive. They're also uh, food sensitive to dairy products. But that they're not called toxins, but they have very, very similar effects to toxins. And those are things that need to be aware of. The gluten causes a overgrowth of xylon. What's it, xylon? All of a sudden, brain dead. Let me come back to that one in a second. But gluten causes bloating, diarrhea, constipation, headaches, fatigue, depression, skin rashes, hives, interrupts your sleep, just a lot of things, sneezy, running eyes, itchy eyes. Uh, but if you read the food labels, it's going to tell you what's in there most of the time. But don't believe everything that's in there, because you'll say no sugar added. Well, okay, that sounds good. Fat free, that sounds good. Again, they can have sugar in them and you don't know about it. It can be labeled differently. The fat free is just another moniker to hang on it. Another word, natural, is another one. Again, it doesn't have any technical meaning. So if you're going to buy something, make sure it's organic and what you're getting. I use coconut oil I use it for underarm deodorant. I use it for my face, my head. I use it for cooking. Sometimes I'll just take a tablespoon of it. Uh, and it's just, I try to get it at least manufactured as possible, cold pressed. uh, and I find it's extremely good. A lot of people had a problem with it being we call it, not partially hydrogen, a saturated fat. It's a plant saturated fat, not like beef and other animal saturated fats. And as such, it doesn't have the same problem. When you look at historical studies, India, for instance, never had a problem with heart disease until the coconut oil was taken away from them and they started going into other things. Society has its own ills, but that was one of them. Same thing in Nigeria with red palm oil. A lot of issues there. When they started changing things around and became more civilized, a lot of modern diseases crept in. And I'm still trying to think of that particular uh, chemical in the gut. Well, hopefully, I'm going to think of it before the end of the show. Let's go ahead and go into R, radiation. So we did stress, we did toxins, now we're doing the R, radiation. Radiation, again, causes free radicals, also disrupts your DNA, a lot of damage there, inflammation. Sources, probably the biggest one, if you look it up on the internet, it's going to say radon. It's an inert gas, but it's a source of radiation. It comes from the earth, not much we can do about it. The sun, can't do much about that. Electromagnetic, we do have control over the electromagnetic radiation in our lives. We have Wi-Fi. In this room, I have lights over there. I got a computer here, a printer over there. I got this, got a light switch over there, clock. Everything that is running electricity through it has an electromagnetic force running along those lines. So through the walls, when I turn on the overhead lights, the room now has an electromagnetic pulse going through it, a wave. Every light, the wiring has it, the computer has it. It's not that it's bad for it, it's just like moderation in the foods we eat. But radiation to be a factor in your life is not going to happen overnight unless you're exposed to uranium or something. But the issue is, how close are you to it? Right now, I'm literally a foot away from my screen. Well, that screen has a lot of blue light. Well, that's going to affect my vision and other things. But that is a distance. My other computer in my other office is probably about a good 2 feet or more away from me. But it's a much, much bigger monitor. So how close are you to it? Your video games, your cell phone, those kinds of things. How long are you in that present? How intense is it? A lot of issues are there. Now, what can you do about it? Well, cell phone, you have it next to your head. You can put the speaker on, hold it a little further away. Sometimes that works very well. That's my preferred way of doing it, but it's not always the best way. If you're in a doctor's office, you don't want to be talking on your cell phone to everybody else who can hear what's going on. I hear a lot of that nowadays. I take my wife the other day to an eye doctor, and somebody behind us insisted on having a public call with somebody that shouldn't have been there. But regardless, there is supposed to be on most of the new phones no radiation leaks. My cell phone, I happened to be at a place where they were testing cell phones, and sure enough, my model says no radiation leaks according to the manufacturer. But in reality, yes, it had a radiation leak. Not much I could do about it, but it is what it is. The Let's say you have a lot of wiring in your house. You're right next to where the air conditioner is, the TV set, whatever it may happen to be. You may have an EMF hotspot, and that EMF hotspot can become an issue over time. And I'm not talking about the next couple of years, but if you're going to be in an area where, let's say, your office is just completely surrounded by electronic stuff, and the cubicle next to you and the other one on that side, you're going to have EMF hotspots. In the house, I have 2 power conditioners that have EMF filters that just reduces the level of EMF activity, where I am not living in that cocoon of electromagnetic waves. But we have filters from other sources: cactus, snake plant, beetle leaf, aloe vera, asparagus fern, spider plants. A lot of plants can filter a lot of that electromagnetic force that's in there. But if you're aware, the whole purpose of my presentations are, number one, to make you aware of what's out there. Number two, once you're aware, hopefully you have an interest enough to increase your own knowledge. Dr. Google and Mr. YouTube are 2 really good sources of a lot of good information, a lot of bad information too. But part of what you're doing is going to good sources to get your information. And then lastly is to take some action. Now, if you don't do anything else from this lecture or this presentation today, except change the size of your dinner plate and don't go back for seconds, that's a major accomplishment, because you've cut down literally on calories, you've cut down literally on the amount of stuff that's in there. So even if there are toxins in the food, you're getting less of them. So it's one of those things you can do, incremental improvements. Inflammation starts at the cellular level and builds. If it's not held under control by antioxidants and other things you can do, then you end up in the next level up, which is called oxidative stress. And this is where disease gets a real start on becoming a tumor. You may have a tumor growing in you for 30 years, but 30 years ago, it was just a seed, literally nothing to even see. Even if you knew you had it, you probably couldn't find it. As it gets bigger, again, you don't know you have it, so there's no reason to start looking for it. And the instrumentation we have may not even be good enough to really find it. So that over time it grows and grows, and it finally gets to a point where, oh, I got to do something. I'm not feeling good. You go to the doctor, and he says, oh, you got 6 months to live, and it's the size of a baseball. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend an annual physical. It's one thing, if you're on the road, you know where you're at, you know where you've been. For me, I order 3 extra tests, but one of them is called C-reactive protein. When inflammation starts to build up in the body, C-reactive protein builds up. And it's a simple blood test, very inexpensive. You can go down to a local laboratory and get it done yourself. The closer to zero or unmeasurable it is, that's the best way to have it. If it's in single digits, probably not too bad, especially if it's low single digits. If it's higher single digits and double digits, go talk to your doctor, because there is a problem developing. Because decades later, whatever problem that is going to become a disease. Maybe a tumor, maybe something else, but it's going to become a disease. Uh, I'm still trying to think of that. Maybe I'll think of it here just as I'm talking to Dr. Jacqueline and wrapping up. But gluten causes another protein in the body that causes our gut walls to increase just a little bit incrementally to let the nutrients from our digestive process. When the gluten gets down there, it causes that process to open up big holes. And now everything, undigested food, toxins, everything gets into the bloodstream. It goes through our immune system, which is about 80% of our gut. And that's what taxes our immune system, is that gluten ends up causing that. But I wish I could remember that one. Regardless, I think I'm about ready to call for Dr. Jacqueline, and we will conclude today's show. And if I think about it between now and the end, fine. If not, I'll make sure that everybody's aware of it on my next show. Thank you so very much.
Well done, Red. I love all that, really, that detail and that specificity. We have a number of comments, which we'll get to in a second. So I have a gluten allergy myself, and I wasn't aware of it until last year. So I've suffered with rashes and ulcerative colitis, all kinds of things. And it comes down to not eating gluten, and I feel much better. So, but yet decades, I had no idea.
And even going non-gluten, you can accidentally add more calories, because a lot of the things that are non-gluten are higher in calories. You think you're actually being safer and healthier, but you got to read the labels. You know, is the sample size for a half a candy bar or for a whole candy bar? What is the sample size? That to me is probably the number one thing that I read, is a sample size. Then I start looking at all the ingredients. You buy the exact same product in Europe, it may have 10 things on it. You buy in America, it has 31 things on it, because Europe bans a lot of the stuff that we allow.
I think that's fascinating. I had heard that also during another show. Somebody was talking about the feed that they give to horses, that apparently it's all regulated about what can actually be in there.
Yes.
So if you do buy packaged food, which I admit I eat granola bars, I look at the wrapper because I'm in between shows, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what is all this stuff? But yet it's an easy thing to grab. I know it's not healthy, right? Anything in a package.
It's a moderation thing. If you're doing it once or twice a week, that's probably not a bad deal. If you're doing it 4 times a day, that might be something to stop, cut back to 3 times a day, then 2 times a day. You got to start someplace, but you start with awareness, and that's what I hope to put out in these programs.
You definitely are bringing awareness. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Mr. Hyatt Ives, Red, great presentation with excellent info and suggestions. Thank you, Hyatt. And our friend David Chris is back from this morning. Thank you, David. Nice to have you joining us. Very good advice. Thank you. And other comments, which we cannot put up. So, okay, Red, I'm just spotlighting your information so people can have it if they want to get in touch with you. I didn't want to put it up during the lesson. When we think about stress, I know you and I have spoken about this many times. You work out all the time. I work out all the time. What about for people who they're just not workout people? They don't want to take a walk. I see Chris likes to go for a walk, which is great. Chris, are you in the UK? I'm trying to remember where you are. I think you are. But what else can we do if we're not, you love to do, you push yourself running and doing your dashes. I love my solid core. What if we're not that kind of person? We're more sedentary. What are some things we can do to get rid of stress?
If you're in a work environment and you're in a building with stairs, take the stairs. At least go up 2 flights rather than take the elevator. If you're parking, park on the far side where you have to walk a little bit extra. If you're going to the store in the afternoon on the way home from work, park a little bit further out. Every little bit helps. If you're at home, maybe you want to go to the bathroom upstairs rather than downstairs. Every little bit helps. You're getting a little bit of blood, uh, heartbeat going up. Every part helps. But if all you're doing is sitting in front of the TV set all day long, that is not a healthy lifestyle. If you're not paying attention to the food you eat, that's not a healthy lifestyle. Yes, you can live to a ripe old age without a lot of, but that depends on our genes and on our immune system. And not everybody has good genes and a good immune system. And even if you have genetic issues, epigenetics, the things that we do to turn off the gene responses, such as our lifestyle choices, not smoking, not being obese, exercising, stress management, selecting the right foods to eat, caloric restriction, selecting foods that are more alkaline than acidic. There are a lot of things that we can do to change potential genetic disorders that we might have in our family history.
Thank you for that, Red. And a question I have, as we get older, I remember reading in the past that our metabolism actually changes. And then I read somewhere that that's not true. Why is it that we have a tendency to put on weight as we get older? Is it because we're more sedentary? Is it genetic? Is it the thyroid?
Well, if there was a single answer, nobody would be fat because they would just go in there and attack it. Thyroid is a big issue on weight. Stress is probably even a bigger issue on weight. Stress, when the body has it and it's in toxins for the body stores it if it can't process it because you have too much, it stores it in fat cells and it stores it in fat cells around the gut. So if you see that extra layer of fat around your belly, a lot of that fat is because the body wasn't able to process it, and it's got to put it someplace because it's not going anywhere. And if you have toxins that can't process through the liver, okay, well it's going to store it in there in the fat cells. So yes, there are metabolic changes over time. I talked the other day about human growth hormone. When you're young, you have huge amounts of it. Then as you get older, they start coming down and down. Well, if nobody's in charge of your body, then other things are going to happen. Your thyroid's going to go out. You're going to have other hormone imbalances, whether it's estrogen, testosterone, or half a dozen others. There's a lot of things. So when you start getting hormone imbalances, nutritional imbalances, I mean, everybody probably today, if you just looked at it, there's a dozen between vitamins and minerals that we're deficient in. And those all have an effect, not today, but over time they have an effect. Vitamin B12 deficiency mimics Alzheimer's. That's one of the first things the doctor is going to give you is a B12 shot to see if that is a cause of a problem. Vegans may have a very hard time, they do have a hard time getting vitamin B12 because it's almost all from animal sources. And if you're taking it as a pill form, if it's not being digested under the tongue, then you're not getting the right kind of B12. A cobalamin is going to be destroyed in the stomach acid. So you need to take the cobalamin, the methylcobalamin, they'll be through the sublingual under the tongue. But there's just a lot of things out there that if you're not aware of it, you can't fix it or you can't stop doing something that you're doing. So it's not, yes, aging has issues and things don't get produced as well as they used to. One of the ones that causes a problem in the brain is a phospholipid called phosphatidylserine, PS I call it. And it goes through the blood-brain barrier, but as you get older, you make it less and less. You can buy it in pill form. Your body manufactures it. You take it, and I have known several instances of people taking that with early onset Alzheimer's, and they're right back to normal. I mean, they could tell you what they had for breakfast, what was on TV last night, what they plan on watching tonight on TV. But again, we get these little imbalances, and they have an effect on our brain. They have an effect on our cardiovascular system. They have an effect on our immune system. We tend up getting colds more often. They have an effect on our weight. They have an effect on our balance. Just a lot of things out there that are potential problems. And part of our solution is making people aware and kind of inspiring that I need to know more about that. And whether they go to this website or that person or someone else, there's a lot of good sources out there. Go find out more about it.
Red, you provided so much information that is relevant to all of us. And I know you said you're a researcher and you're also an author. Where can people find out this information from you directly? Can they contact you? Can they read your books? What do you suggest?
Well, everything I talked about today is in my book, The Joy of Ageless Health. Uh, how to be healthy, vibrant, and active as you age. That was the #1 bestseller a couple of years ago on Amazon. The book I used the other last presentation was Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging: How to Live to 100 Years of Age with the body of a healthy 50-year-old and a mind of a 25-year-old. And this one I talked about what are the causes of aging and what can you do about it. This one here I go into the 6 factors: stress, toxins, radiation, inflammation, diet, and expectations. And those are the things, those 2 books that are mine. They're available on Amazon. They're available off my website, red.olaughlin.com. But there's a lot of other good sources too. And like I say, Dr. Google is a good source. But again, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation out there. But if you see something that doesn't sound right, go do some more research or contact somebody. I generally respond to almost anybody who emails me or gives me a call. Red.olaughlin@gmail.com is a good email address for me. My phone number is 281-687-1188, 281-687-1188, and red.olaughlin@gmail.com or red@red.olaughlin.com. But red.olaughlin.com is my website. I have about 13 or 1400 blogs posted there. I just posted my 950th original content article on LinkedIn last night. So I got a lot of most everything I write about has some aspect of health and wellness.
And Red just spent 2 hours working with me yesterday on my second book. So he is definitely in demand. I hope you will reach out to him. Red, brilliant presentation as always. Thank you so much for being here and being a talking head on USA Global TV.
I'm humbled to be here. Thanks so very much for honoring me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for engaging with us and for your questions and your comments. It means so much. If you are interested in learning more, please go to our website, usaglobaltv.com, or our YouTube channel, USA Global TV. Yay! Thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you again soon. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care. And thank you again, Chris. And thank you, Dave. And thank you, Hyatt. Bye.